Hello, everyone. I'm Bonnie Burkert. Thank you for joining us for Truth Be Told, Transformation. I'm here to talk to you about different tools to help you learn and live your highest truth. I'd like to bring wise people on to talk about really fascinating subjects to help us all feel better and live our best. So today we are going to discuss the promise of psychedelic medicine. And I have brought on expert David Nikzad, who is from EI Ventures. David, thanks for joining us today.
Aloha. It's, what an introduction, by the way. Probably the best one I've ever heard.
Aloha to you. Well, listen, and this is an important subject, so I really look forward to hearing what all you have to talk about. So I
I
would like to
appreciate that.
I would like to just start off by saying eating right, food, using food as medicine is a huge passion of mine. It may be the all important most favorite. So I love this conversation about taking these sacred plants and using them in a very, very special way. And you and your company are helping really streamline this process. So I'll let you talk a little bit about EI Ventures, which stands for Emotional Intelligence Ventures. Am I right?
It does. Yep. And
Fantastic. Tell me about your
a lot
company.
of people get it confused sometimes. It's not a venture fund. It's a operating company in the psychedelic space.
Yes, please. Tell us more.
During this process, for me, started even when I was a kid. You don't get taught in school about this idea of emotional intelligence, and I think that as I hear stories from people that I've either journeyed with or talked to about psychedelics, there's a lot of past life regression and things we grew up with, and especially during the time when I was going through what I call my first attention, which is when you're around 5 years old and things are you're learning who you are as a person. And I always knew that I had a bit of an autistic, I technically I have autism. My brain doesn't exactly work like everybody else's. And through that process, I got introduced to, I would say, the so-called medical system. And I love it because as somebody was telling me today, everything is in this one podcast about digital currency frequency. I think that's a lot of what's going on in this new renaissance of psychedelics and nutraceuticals. Uh, by the fifth grade, I was on Ritalin. By the time I was 20, I was on, Lexapro and 100 milligrams of Adderall. So as much as those are, let's say, prescription products, very addictive, and to get off of those products is very, very difficult. And that journey of, having autistic behaviors and knowing that I was a bit different, I was chasing that neutral zone is a conversation that I have with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Indeed. So let's stay with your childhood. At what point did you know that all these prescription medications that presumably your family arranged for you, at what point did you realize those were not serving you and really just toxic to your system?
I think that, when you're in junior high and high school, you're definitely resilient to things. Uh, Obviously, I knew that whatever I was taking was allowing me to, I think when you take Ritalin or Adderall, it's almost like taking speed where you can focus. And so you have that edge. Yes, there are some what I would call issues with your microbiome and how you eat and the enzymes in your body. I didn't really realize all that probably until like my mid 20s, and I was like, or my early 20s. I was like, I don't know if this stuff is really good for me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and by that time it was like Adderall and cannabis and wine and everything else you can imagine to kind of just go from one high to another.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know. And that's pretty
Yeah,
much what goes on in modern society these days.
totally.
So I want to ask, at what point did you kind of figure out that maybe the psychedelics had a different edge to help you and your brain, a little
I,
brain
I
set?
think I always knew it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a level of it. if somebody repeats to you multiple times that something is bad, or there's a war on drugs, I started taking psychedelics like shrooms and MDMA probably when I was 16 or 17. So I definitely was interested in it. I didn't have any of the knowledge that I have now, but I knew that different products did different things to me. And I think that the more I went down this rabbit hole of getting into the cannabis industry, getting into the clean label food industry, as I started going down the rabbit hole, I started to realize, okay, what I put inside of my body, or what I put on my body, is going to affect me. And then I slowly started going down the rabbit hole of like Richard Feynman and quantum physics and quantum chemistry, and realizing, okay, there's a frequency of energy to everything. And science is, every day science is getting better and better. And we're starting to understand that, products do have a frequency of energy. If you put love into something, you're going to feel it. I hear that all the time when, people are having food from certain places, when there's been good energy put into it. So the further I started going down this rabbit hole, I started to realize, not all psychedelics are created equal, just like not all water is created equal. So just started really, as I usually do, uh, listening and reading and going down the rabbit hole of, this idea of spirituality and physics and all of it, becoming a vegan, even becoming raw for a while. And, that wasn't a perfect match, but really understanding that as I imagine the future of, you go into a Whole Foods, they do a retina scan, and they're going to give you your perfect concoctions of what you need for the day, whether that's a psychedelic or certain microbiomes or enzymes or specific vitamins and things that you need for the day.
Oh,
And I think we are on that
I love that.
precipice of, in the next 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if I went and got a smoothie and I could throw some, let's say, certain mushrooms in it and certain CBD, and give me my perfect balance for the day.
Wow, I love that, and it's really true. And we've definitely had other talks on the show that discuss how it is not a one size fits all when it
No,
comes
no,
to
no,
health
no
and
way.
our approach to body, mind, spirit. Right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I would love to introduce your company a little bit more. Now we're talking very broad strokes
Yeah.
about it. So I think why don't we take an opportunity to talk about what your vision is through your company, and then we'll bring it back around a little bit to talk about the medicine itself and what you know about that and what you can teach us about that.
Well, I mean, I think that I had made a commitment. Anybody that knows me knows that when I do something, I like to do it, big. It's like, if we're going to change the world, when I first got into this, I said, okay, the life and plant sciences industry is on its way to becoming a $16 trillion industry.
Mm.
How many people do we need to really hit critical mass where people will buy into this? And we figured out, we need 1 billion people to have access to clean medicines and clean food and clean products. And we started going down the rabbit hole of brands and things that we trust. Like during COVID, I traveled on, I don't know, almost like 50 flights, and we even ended up in Vegas, where we ended up, basically turning a Vegas hotel into our office while we were, working on our SEC documents, and just started realizing that as we asked more people, we understood that people are truly, in their own way, brainwashed. Uh, they hear something or they read something, and there's definitely a trust factor, and they're not sure what's good or bad. I talked to one person that said, a pot of coffee every day is good for you. You talk to other people that will tell you, you need to have meat in your diet. Then you start asking people what brands they trust, and people would say Patagonia, or they would say Starbucks, and I sort of got this relational database in my mind that a lot of people don't understand brands and trust and what they put in their bodies. And we sort of took all that and said, okay, who do we want to be? So we knew that in order to bring something like psychedelics and nutraceuticals to the masses, we would have to have a brand that was trusted. And it would be important that we worked on the right, trademarks and copyrights. And we knew that we were going to have, joint ventures with other companies. So we really designed the company as this toolkit of products that people would know and use, and know that when they used our products, or when they heard of Emotional Intelligence Ventures, which our brand name is called Silly, they would know this is a trusted brand. What they give us is not going to hurt us. So our rules of engagement, or our boundaries, were we weren't going to work with anything that was synthetic. The conversation was always like, we're going to give people cold pressed orange juice versus concentrate. And I think the more people I talk to, we all grew up with concentrated orange juice that would come out of like a freezer can that you'd open up and then just add water.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Or worse, maybe Tang.
yes. Oh my God. I used to love Tang.
I mean, it tasted good.
It did taste good. So as we started looking at, companies that were working on AI in the space, and we were looking at just all of it, microbiome and genetics, and blood samples from people to figure out who they were, we understood that it was going to be a lot of different ventures that EI would get into, so emotional intelligence ventures. And as I look at the company today, we just sent out about 10 LOIs this week of companies that we are partnering with different Silly products, or different products within our arsenal, where if somebody wants to, let's go to a restaurant or a bar, they have a healthy alternative to like a vodka and what I call like a speed drink.
Right on.
So
I want to stop you right there, if I may, because we need to
yeah.
introduce Silly. So Silly is an abbreviation of psilocybin. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's we when we started going down this road, we were in Maui. We were I think it was a super moon, and there were probably some psychedelics in the evening. We looked at each other and we were like, yeah, Silly, PSILLY. So, and then we kind of abbreviated it and came up with PSLY, because we knew that we wanted everything branded with something that when people saw PSLY in any type of scenario, they would know, okay, this is EI Ventures, we can trust them, and this is 100% plant medicine.
Wonderful.
And that was kind of the baseline of what we created. And so in our minds, in the next 10 years, as you have other brands that people think about in let's say the drink space, or the cannabis space, or any of these what I would call recreational or medicinal spaces, Silly would be our brand.
Okay.
So
David, let's talk really
ahead.
quick now
Yep.
about the fact that we're not talking about psychedelics, psilocybin in the really super out there, heavy tripping kind of way. We are talking microdosing. Is that accurate?
We are talking about all stages of it. I mean,
Okay.
for us right now in the psilocybin and let's say MDMA space, or psychedelic analog space, we are working on a transdermal patch right now, and really starting to go down the line of delivery mechanism.
Okay.
And what I do understand, because I'm looking at a lot of the trials that are going on in dosage protocols, yeah, the first thing that our desire is definitely a microdose product, because we're not yet ready for somebody to take a large dosage. First of all, the facilities are not set up at this point to handle 1 billion people taking large doses of psilocybin.
No, likely not.
No, not at all.
Although
So,
COVID might have been a good time. People were home, nowhere to
absolutely.
go.
I mean, I think that COVID, as bad as this sounds, every bad thing results in something good in some scenario. So I don't think that the world would be so open to psychedelics if we didn't go through COVID. And I hear that from
Interesting.
everybody that I talk to.
Really? Okay, I think I need you to expound on that a little bit.
I mean, let's be frank with each other. As much as we're all dealing with something. Everybody that I meet on a day to day is, has some type of a habit loop, whether it's coffee or they drink soda, or even when you're a raw vegan, it's almost like an extremist of going down a certain road, and you're almost like self-medicating in some extent.
Chocolate.
And I think that during COVID, or I know because I've spent a lot of time on this, I think people had to really be okay being by themselves and really dealing with whatever their day to day is. I mean, a lot of people, like in Hawaii, you were trapped in your house with your family. The beaches were closed, and yeah, it a lot of people dealt with some sort of mental illness or addictive personality. I remember like going to the store, the liquor aisle and the beer aisle were cleared out. I mean, drinking was at an all time high in Hawaii.
Yeah, sad.
So, people, everybody has some sort of thing that they're dealing with or a trauma that they're working on. And I think what psychedelics do and some nutraceuticals, they help you what I call peel the onion. And it's an idea of being able to go into your inner child and, look at the problem or a thing without being shamed, and really taking off those layers of anything that was projected on you as a child.
Well, that's wonderful because I think that there's still, I mean, perhaps I'm speaking very broadly. I might be quite wrong about this, but there might still be um, people that feel that psychedelics, magic mushrooms, are just they'd freak out. They wouldn't be able to handle it. So
Yeah.
I like that you're describing methods of working with this sacred plant in a way that actually can be more gentle, and it doesn't have to be like
Absolutely.
the world melting and don't look in the mirror, and those are some adages that maybe are more attributed to LSD than mushrooms,
No, no,
mushroom
not at
trips.
all. I was in a nightclub the other night, and people were taking shrooms at high dosages, and somebody fell over in the table. I mean,
Oh no.
again, it's also mixing with alcohol and
Right.
cannabis and other products. uh, I don't
Bad
think
people. The
it's
crowd.
not about bad, it's not about bad people. I mean, I think people don't know. I think that it's a level of, we haven't built the protocols for people to understand how to take these products. I mean, just to be totally candid with you, and I'm an investor in a low dose edible product called Mellows.
Hmm.
uh I'm scared to take edibles.
Is it? We're talking about
The
cannabis here.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I know many
The
people that feel the same way. Like
Totally, but
career
for
pot
some
smokers.
reason, yeah, for some reason, you can go buy a high dose edible from a lot of states, and throw this out there. My grandmother ended up in the hospital because somebody gave her an edible at almost 90 years old.
Oh no! I have
Yeah,
I have a story of somebody who wasn't as old as that, but ended up in a hospital because she had taken too much and she'd eaten too much, and this was in a town of 100,000 people, and the hospital said we get somebody every day
hmm
that we have to help because they've eaten too much. Their
well,
edibles went wrong.
so a number of years ago, we went to the Netherlands, actually to Amsterdam, and we met Dr. Kaj that wrote the rules for, the specific mushrooms or truffles that are allowed.
Ah,
And at one point in Amsterdam, all of every mushroom was legal. And then somebody took a bunch of mushrooms and drank a bunch of alcohol and jumped off the roof of a building.
oh no.
So what we don't want to happen is to spoil something that is so good for everybody. And that's always my fear every day as I'm on these Reddit feeds and people are talking about taking like 3.5 grams of mushrooms.
Oh no.
I actually get scared because I know that not everybody's going to be able to handle that type of a dosage.
Yes, indeed. So, what you're looking to do is, I mean, there's probably a big education component to it, and certainly
Yeah.
you're educating us here. So, let's talk a little bit about what all. Let's get realistic, practical. Again, we labeled this show medicine, how these can be used as psychedelics can be used as medicine.
Yep.
So, and I've heard some terminology uses that we're in a golden age. This is the golden age of psychedelics. I saw that on your site. So
Yep.
please tell us. And by the way, I'm with you 100%. So I just
I
invite you.
appreciate that.
I
Yeah,
invite
I
you.
mean, we are partnering with what I would consider some of the smartest minds in the world to figure out delivery systems and educational pieces, and it's not just about psychedelics. Technically, coffee is a psychedelic.
Interesting.
For us, it's really bringing these plant alkaloids. So every plant has an alkaloid. Those alkaloids, when extracted and given to you, all do something different, like psilocybin and coffee and many other products that different plant extracts like cannabis and different
Cacao.
types of CBD. Well, I mean,
I find the
the
cacao
way
very strong, right?
what is it?
Cacao.
Yeah, cacao as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I I'm trying to use products that people know in their day-to-day life. And the idea of that is also giving you the cleanest versions of these products. So,
Yes.
as we're working on our nutraceutical line and as we're working on our beverage product, we want to make sure that it tastes good, it makes you feel good, and there's not a crash that's involved with it. So it's really important when we formulate something that it's not like a high and then a low. It's very consistent, and we've tried it and we've used it ourselves. And I think that when we look at the people that we're partnering with, there's a lot of, we say in Hawaii, pono, there's a lot of righteousness in the energy that they want to put into these products. So whoever we're partnering with or joint venturing or going into business with, there has to be that energy exchange.
Oh yeah, that's great. Pono. I didn't know that word. It's really
Yeah,
great.
and I mean, just to go back to, I was trying to, think about all the plants that people deal with are taking every day. It even comes down to like a tea. When you have a chamomile tea, you're having a product that's going to make you a little bit sleepy. That's the alkaloid in that product. And what we discovered pretty early on in this journey, as we went and talked to different labs, is that 99% of the products that you're sold in the grocery stores and drugstores are synthetic. They say that they are, let's say, turmeric or something else, and it's not turmeric. It's something that's been synthesized to be that product.
Yeah, that's
So it was
nasty.
it was really important to me that all of our products were whole plant products, so you could get the cumulative benefits of the whole plant.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love that, and it sounds like that could translate beyond silly into other products as
Totally.
well, right? So, another quote I saw on your site that I wanted to invite you to speak on is how the psychedelics could be the Rosetta Stone to cracking the code for mental health issues.
Totally.
So, let's talk about how a brain reset can be
Well, I mean,
experienced.
one of the most difficult things in our lives is to break habit loops.
Okay.
It's really easy for us all to say, okay, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to quit smoking. And then you're having a drink with a friend, they have a cigarette, and, they're having a smoke. So we understand that people want to be involved with communities and products where, people are looking to benefit in the same way. So I think part of that is, creating a community as well as, we talk a lot about ohana. Ohana is this idea in Hawaiian family. And it's, when you talk to some of the kahunas, they will tell you it's about leaving nobody behind.
Mm.
And I think that's part of it. I think it's a movement of people coming together. And what I saw out of COVID is I saw people coming together to get through something that was truly difficult in the world. And obviously we're not through COVID yet, but uh, we're building a ohana,
Wow.
a family of products and people that want to change the world.
Well, that is so great. Thank you. And I think, that is certainly a mission that we have with Truth Be Told, is that conscious community out
I,
there.
I i can feel it in you. I mean, just hearing you speak, I mean, that's part of the quantum dynamics of how you get connected with people. And I don't want to get too airy
Oh,
fairy,
you
but
can.
I mean, I've spent enough time with enough people in ayahuasca ceremonies or bufo or MDMA or psilocybin to know that, yeah, we're all looking for something. We're on this earth. We want to find our purpose. We actually are loving, caring people. And I think if anything that I would love out of psychedelics is I'd love to see that utopian society where there the boundaries of money and medicine and food are created equal. I don't think it's right that one portion of society is allowed to eat organic heirloom food and another has habit loops where they're going to eat junk food. And so I think that this golden age is resetting all of those habit loops.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's exciting. It really is exciting to see, and just the acceptance. I mean, um, mushrooms are legal in Oregon. Is that accurate? In Colorado?
They're decriminalized.
Okay,
So
different.
there's yeah,
Okay.
so there's a lot of states that are decriminalized, and obviously Oregon has passed a ballot where you will be able to, when protocols are written, to be able to take mushrooms of some type. And those protocols and things, our rules have not been written yet. I look at this a lot and people fault me for it, but I look at it like the cannabis industry. um, I think that we're going to go through a process. I think Oregon is a phenomenal state to do this in because they've gone down the recreational cannabis road, and they understand that there's going to be rules and regulations around it. And I think as much as people tell me that it's going to be a synthetic product, I don't believe that. I actually think it's going to be going somewhere and getting a bag of mushrooms that's dosed out at a certain milligram, and you'll be taking it with a therapist. i
Better.
i I
Nice.
find it very hard to believe, considering most companies are maybe at the end of the phase 2 product process to further fast track any type of emergency legislation to have psilocybin be legal. And if you look at products like, MDMA, there are very expensive therapeutic models that go along with the phase 4 studies that, will make MDMA legal. I think, what I heard was it's like $10,000 to go through like multiple therapeutic sessions. So I was with one of the leading FDA lawyers the other night. There was a psychedelic convention in Miami. We're still really, really far away. If you look at the cannabis industry, I do think psychedelics are moving a lot quicker. With cannabis, we're almost 20 years into this, and it's still not federally legal.
True. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm just kind of thinking about a speaker, a wise herbalist that I listened to named David Crow. And
Mm-hmm.
he was talking about, do you know David?
I do.
And he was talking about the use of psychedelics, and I don't think he specified, and how it was meant at one time, they were used ceremonially.
Absolutely.
And now people, it's just a party. And that, I think, in a way, I think cannabis could fall under that. So I
You
like,
take, yeah.
yeah, I like what you're describing. Okay, so I mean, ceremonially, you can tell me your impressions of something like that. I certainly have my own, but it's really not about chewing mushrooms and then just I don't know going into
I just think we're rebuilding habit loops. I mean, when you
yeah.
look at, I even look at like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin as one of those habit loops of, we know that digital money is going to be less expensive. It's going to allow for the world to communicate in a better fashion. There are not going to be people that are regulating and devaluing currencies, which cause wars and other things. I just think, and you look at something like Bitcoin, that's how many, we're 13 years into Bitcoin. So what I do love about the psychedelic space is it's super early on. There were a lot of people a long time ago working on it. And we're in an age with digital currency and cannabis and clean foods and people worrying about their diets, that plugging psychedelics and being able to almost give it its own energy, our own, what I would say, label is super important. When I look at psychedelics or nutraceuticals, for me, it's not necessarily, it's not about getting high. It's about actually getting something out of it that is beneficial for myself. So I just think it's going to be important with the people that are in this space, and to make sure that everybody has the same intentions as we train society to use these products.
Indeed. So you told me you were just at a conference, correct?
I was.
So what's the
Uh,
mood? Do you feel that with that mission in mind, did you see evidence of
I
that?
saw I saw a lot of, I saw a lot of people with a lot of money that had been raised through psychedelic companies, where people had power without wisdom.
Mm.
Now, there are really incredible people in the space that are working hard, but that recreational aspect of, what do you got in your pocket, and let me have as many drugs as possible, that's there. And I think that when you give young companies hundreds of millions of dollars, I just think it's really important to understand the mindset of the company and what they're going to do with that money. And listen, we all like to have a good time, but it's, you're a steward of this industry. That's why for me, it's a very long term perspective. I've been in this industry now for 10 years. I'm getting ready for my next 10 years.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, what have we learned from cannabis? I mean, because the legalization, a lot of it was around medical marijuana, and there's a lot of absolutely therapeutic use to cannabis. So, now that that's brought legal in quite a few states and quite readily accessible, I mean, is it being used for medical or
Yeah,
enough, or
definitely.
is it?
I use cannabis myself. I mean, cannabis for me is something I use as my, not in a bad way, but as like my Adderall substitute. I have a specific strain of cannabis that I smoke. Uh, I prefer high grade cannabis. I like it rolled into a joint. I don't like concentrates. I don't do well with edibles, and it it helps me with certain things. I have an addictive personality. I have a brain that doesn't work like everybody else's. So it helps me with what I need without like going to the refrigerator at a 9 a.m. and having a shot of tequila. And
Mhm.
and there are people that do that.
Yeah. Indeed. You're right. So I would like to talk about, again, just the medicinal uses of mushrooms and of psychedelics. And one of the ideas that you had is how it could be useful, certainly for PTSD relief.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then one of the other ideas you had is how it could be useful in our prison systems.
Absolutely. Everything is about habit loops. Everything is about changing your perspective, and it doesn't happen on one journey or one day. It's a process, and it's a process of like, if you're going to lose weight, you need to exercise and eat well. With psychedelics, it's the same thing. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's about, using these products to help you. That's why when I personally use these products, I journal a lot. I work on vision boards. I listen to podcasts. Sometimes I go dancing. But I make sure to know that I'm not abusing this product and I'm not taking it for granted. So I use a lot of my own experiences because, uh, I've seen addiction. Something about these products. I ended up meeting a lot of people along the way that were dealing with Asperger's and autism when I was a kid, and even as I've grown up, you meet people that are dealing with the same thing. So there are a lot of us out there, and I think a lot of this has stemmed from diet. I've read a number of books that talk about diet and sugar in our diets, and this has, made kids have ADD and ADHD. So it's almost a reboot of your system, your habit loops, and I think everybody can benefit from it in some extent.
Yeah, well, it's interesting what you say about the habit loops. I like that and invite everyone to explore that and what that means to them. So we've mentioned cannabis. I want to bring up ayahuasca as
Yeah,
well. So that's become quite trendy in everyone's,
it has become. Not all ayahuasca is created equal either.
Yeah. So would you like to share about that and what that is in, because it's certainly a psychedelic, correct?
I spent a lot. I spent a good decade plus in Hawaii. I was involved with a number of, I went to a number of ayahuasca ceremonies. Again, for myself, I don't think, you know, everybody's ready to go to a serious ayahuasca ceremony. It's not for everyone. And I think that with science today, you can extract specific alkaloids out of what they use to make ayahuasca, where you can give somebody what I call like a gentle journey. I don't think everybody's ready to, vomit or other things that go along when you take these types of products. And I've talked to many people that tell me, oh, you have to go through that experience. You have to, get sick to cleanse yourself. I actually don't believe that. I like when I take these medicines to actually feel good and not vomit or other things. So I think with science and extraction technology and just where we are in the world, we can make microdoses of product that will give you the same elements of these specific medicines. And there are people that have shown me products recently that I can see where the world is going. We have a lot of talented minds out there.
Well, right, and very passionate. And I love how you're bringing really just the big picture, a healthier planet for all. And I love how you're bringing that into your company. And so, and David, I mean, if people are interested, they should come and check out your site, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
opportunities
totally.
to,
We're EI.ventures. I For myself, I use LinkedIn a lot. You can find me on LinkedIn. I use it sort of as my Instagram and newsfeed and everything else. I find that you meet a lot of good like minds there, and it's it stays on the business and social level. And yeah, I think if you want to, I get a lot of messages of people that want to get involved with this movement. And I would say, definitely on a state level, get out there, see what's going on, learn about mushrooms, learn about foraging, know where your food comes from. I think, one of the things that is big for me is educating people. We try to really educate people that want to invest and get involved in this space to make sure they know what it's all about, and we're still at the very, very beginning stages.
Well, it's great. And David, really, you are leading the way in a very pure and, in a way that will help people. That it's not just only for fun. It's really for getting better and feeling well, and that's fun right there. Correct?
I mean, I wanna enjoy life. I have
Yeah.
children. I have a family. We all want to we all want to feel good. We're in a point in the world where, the rich are getting richer. In Hawaii during COVID, homelessness was crazy. Uh, I was listening to this guy the other day that's bringing digital payments to Africa. It's about empathy. It's about, like, when you see somebody not doing well on the side of the road, it's about stopping and giving somebody a hand. And I think that, above and beyond psychedelics and everything we're talking about, is the world needs empathy right now. You
Mm,
want this golden age to happen? It's not going to happen on social media. It's going to happen with human interaction and people caring about one another.
beautiful. Thank you. That's a quote we'll take with us. David, fascinating conversation. Truly a pleasure, and I wish you every good fortune
Thank you so
to
much.
to
The
bring
same to you. You have a
silly.
beautiful soul, by the way.
You're very kind. Thank you. I love being here, and it's really just such a treat to learn so much more. And I look forward to. I'm gonna have to try some silly sometime.
Ops, one of these days we'll have to get just silly. I mean, our drink product's coming out. It doesn't have any psychedelics in it, but has some really good mushrooms in it.
Thank you very much. I will say aloha until the next time.
Aloha.
All right,
Yeah,
and
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah,
All
Lashaka.
right.
You
Shaka.
are Ohana.
I appreciate that.
I'll talk to you soon.
Until
Aloha.
until the next time, everybody. This has been Truth Be Told Transformation. It was fantastic talking to David Nikzad of EI Ventures. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. We have Robert every single Monday at 3 p.m. We have Tony Sweet, our fearless leader, every Friday at 3 p.m. And thanks for watching Truth Be Told. I'm Bonnie Burkert. Until the next time, namaste.